Welcome to the Microsoft Security Insights Podcast with your hosts, Franklin Grimberg and Edward Walton, where we discuss Microsoft 365 security and Azure security news and products. Recorded December 16th, 2021. Welcome, Franklin. Welcome, Brody. No Rod, and to our guests that's appearing on the show tonight. Welcome, Miss Harris, Angela Harris. How's everyone doing? Everybody's good?
Great.
Doing good.
I'm happy to be here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for coming on. I know you and I talked about it about a month ago, lined up some guests, and I really appreciate you taking time out your busy schedule to come on and talk about, what you do, what excites you, what you're seeing out there, and just educate us. We always learn something doing our podcast, right? Whether we something personal about somebody or something that we did or a way to fix something. So pretty good stuff.
And we also have bets.
Huh?
So we also have bets. So I did update the scoring for the SC200. So 1 point for first person to pass the exam, then a point for each category, which is 3 points, and then overall score. I forgot the overall score. So that'll be 5 points. Now, Brody, Edward sent me his appointment date and time. How much is it worth to you to know that information for that?
I will donate 1 point for that information.
No, you get 1 point by knowing when he's taking the test. You can take it the day before. So how much is that worth?
You know what? It is what it is. I'm very busy. I'll fit it in on my very busy schedule as soon as I can. And I'm sure I'll beat Ed. He'll just fail again anyway. So it doesn't matter when he has it booked.
Technically, he didn't fail. Well, I don't know. Did he technically fail last time?
I failed. If the system says you didn't show or it disqualified me and it's canceling my scheduled test as a fail. But I tell you, and I said this, you can never fail as long as you can try again.
Mm-hmm.
You just didn't pass. Because
true.
if I had to rack up the
test.
number of exams that I failed, they were way outnumbered the numbers that I passed. But if I get to try again, now there's a sense of urgency if they say, hey, you get 2 times and you never get to take this exam again, then that's a failure, right?
Yeah.
I can count the things I've failed in life. It's only about 4. And that's because I didn't want to try anymore, right? That's just on me. But no,
Brody already sent me a message on Discord, $25. He's willing
25
to pay
Canadian
that's
beaver
all
bucks.
it's worth.
Yes.
That's all it worth for his dignity and shame.
Dignity and shame. Oh, it's not worth that much. No.
So, Angela, we're highly competitive here. I was supposed to take the SC200 SOC analyst exam. Shout out to one of our hosts that wrote a lot of the content there. He's going to tell you in a minute if you wait long enough, frankly. And so I didn't pass the first time because it messed up my registration. Mr. Franklin Grimberg said, hey, man, play it forward and help someone else out so they don't have this. Put a ticket in. I put a ticket in. Must have angered the certification guards. They wiped out my MCP certification history, my dossier for 2 decades. Gone. And they were like, that'll learn you.
Wow.
You want to submit another ticket? It took me Franklin, a month and a half to fix it?
And then it happened again or something like that. So yeah.
It happened again. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? But anyway, Brody, best of luck.
It's the luck.
Yeah. We all on the same team. It's just that I'll start and you'll sit on the bench. Sure. That happens, right?
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Bye.
Oh, man.
Get to Angela now. Let's
get to Angela
later. All right.
Angela, you want to get in on this bet? You got any certifications you want to?
Well, actually, I do plan on taking the SC900 at some point. I've been going through the learning modules for that. So that's on my list.
Cool. That's a good one.
Yeah. You're a manager, though. All the managers have to take that at Microsoft, right?
It's not required as far as I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought all the managers did. So without further ado to our listeners, I'd like to introduce our next guest, program manager, right?
Product marketing manager.
Same thing, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they work for you.
Same thing. This is marketing.
They work for you, and so you tell them what to do. Miss Angela Harris, who's at Microsoft. I happened to be on one of her update webinars, and it was a really nice panel. And I looked at all the duties and responsibilities, and yours was just Microsoft security.
Mm-hmm.
It's either like this or like this. I hope it's not this and that. Like, yeah, you're in charge of everything. but I'd like for you to come on and better describe what you do at Microsoft, why you do what you do at Microsoft, and how does it benefit our customers and even our non-Microsoft customers who still have refused to drink the Kool-Aid. And anything else you want to share about yourself? I will be quiet and hand the floor over to you, Ms. Harris.
All right. Well, thank you, Edward, for having me. I am Angela Harris, and I work on our security, compliance, and identity product marketing team. And I support our quarterly field and partner roadmap call, which is the webinar that you mentioned. And essentially, that's a readout to our field and partner community on all the products that we have across all our security pillars: identity and access management, threat protection, cloud protection, and compliance. And we get together just to update the community on the latest and greatest, our highlights, benefits for the customers, and provide them with a list of resources that they can share to hopefully get more folks to drink the Kool-Aid and get everybody on the Microsoft products.
Love it. It's good
Drinking
Kool-Aid.
Drinking the Kool-Aid comes in
a red
different
cup.
flavors as
In
well
a red
as
cup.
in a red cup.
Yes.
So we got the overview, but tell us what you really do. When you're nobody really does a 9 to 5 anymore, right? It's more like 24 by 24, 24 by 7. What is your day like? How do you come out and how do you interact with all the I assume those others are your peers that was on that panel.
Yes.
Ricky and all those guys, Kalan and Jessica
Yes.
and all these others. So tell me what you do. How do I understand? Oh, I know who to call. Miss Harris is in charge of that.
Yeah, essentially, I work with our product marketing manager. So, like you mentioned, Ricky, he supports, I think it's Microsoft Defender for Identity. So essentially, I will reach out to them as we're getting closer to our call, say, hey, it's that time again. Can you pull together some slide updates for us and do a readout for the customer? So he also works with his engineering counterparts to kind of see like where we are in terms of roadmap so they can share out the various features that have been delivered or what's coming next. And we take it from there.
Mm-hmm. So I don't remember. I don't remember how I got on that readout. Was that customer facing or was it internal only?
It's internal for our field community, but we also have a select list of partners that receive invitations to the call.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of, I guess, like a special invitation for a select group of partners.
Okay, that's what I thought, right?
Yes.
But my thing is, I was in the meeting, which must have been forwarded to me, which is how I got on it, but I never got the transcripts or the recording, which is why I say, okay, was this customer facing? Was it internal only? So can you give a quick rundown of all the, you may or may not remember all the people that were on that call, as much as you can remember, and what things you guys talked about, what technologies, because I saw the roadmap stuff. It was actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Well, there were several. I probably can't list off all the products, but I know like Azure Active Directory is a common one, Microsoft Endpoint Manager, Microsoft Defender for Identity, Defender for Endpoint, so many, Microsoft Cloud App Security.
Oh, your
Microsoft
favorite product.
Information Protection, Compliance Manager. So there's so many products across the 4 pillars that we typically focus on. So each of the product marketing managers that will kind of give their spiel, quarter over quarter, just to let everyone know what's coming.
So
nice.
You and your team sort of act as a liaison between engineering, because engineering, like, you got to pull teeth.
Yes, we do.
Like, dude, just tell me.
Yeah, that's honestly from in interacting with the product marketing managers, they also have a hard time getting them to kind of nail down sometimes when the features are coming. So we're doing our best to get the information, but it can be challenging at times just because of the way the planning cycle operates.
Mm-hmm. If things were normal, would you be going to all the events? Spark, Ignite, Inspire, DTA. Does that team lift and shift like we used to in old days, and you get up on stage and it's like, hey?
Well, that's a good question. I'm actually fairly new to the role. So I moved over into this organization back in March of this year. So I moved during COVID. So I'm not completely sure. And I know we're starting to ease our way back into virtual events, but I know like some of the product marketing managers in the past that they have attended those events, but I'm not sure if I'll be attending personally.
Does your role require that you be super deep and technical? Because
No, it doesn't.
It's broad, but you know enough.
I know enough to be dangerous.
Anybody say, oh, I know enough to be dangerous. So what's right below dangerous, right? I know enough to be harmful, right? They do that right there. So, I think you know about my role in GBB. I'm suspected to solve all problems. I know nothing.
Yes.
I think the strength of this role is knowing people like yourself. Like, hey, I can drop your name, and I have to get people to come onto the podcast. And so your peers, I shame them. I'm like, Harris is going to be there. Looks good on your connect. And so, we talked about the broad, but are you live in PowerPoint? You live in updates? Do you have to blog? How do you get the word out?
I would say PowerPoint, email, OneNote, Teams. That's pretty much my day. Outside of meetings, yeah.
What about Yammer?
I'm not a huge Yammer consumer.
That's still around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you? Are you in the Yammer?
They're sending updates all the time.
So let me ask you, what do you find unique about each one of the product communities when you're talking to them or marketing to them? Is there anything unique about that between security, compliance, and identity?
I can't think of anything, but I will say it seems like people are very interested in compliance. Not that they aren't interested in the others, but compliance seems to be really hot right now.
Yeah.
Compliance is really hot right now. You know why? Because it's hard.
Yeah.
And you can't find that skill set. It's hard. It's so much process at the beginning when, S&C and audits and all the regulatory, but then now that technology is finally catching up to the regulations and controls, it's not easy. You could spend your career in the Microsoft compliance, portal. Then you got insider threat, insider risk. You got labeling classifications.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have to do that. Privacy, yes. And so now they're expecting you to be deep and broad, especially if you're an implementer and you're coming in. I had another question. It was so what is the most passionate group of all the engineering, those who are most excited to bring new features to their stuff? Is it the MDI team, MDO team, Secure Score team?
They're all passionate. I would say they are all equally passionate. They all want to get their message across. I can't just pick one.
Okay. What out of those things, which is your favorite product? Is it Microsoft Cloud App Security and Microsoft Defender for cloud apps? Is it Microsoft Defender for endpoint? Microsoft Defender for identity? Which one you like? You know what? That's the thing. Or you don't have one favorite?
Not necessarily one favorite, but one that I'm particularly want to get more in depth with would be Defender for IoT.
Oh, really? They call me off guard. They call everybody.
Option 5. Yes, that's a hot one. That's also an important area.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
So remind me later. I introduce you to a bunch of the leads that are doing that stuff, because part of what I did was when CyberX was acquired, I was part of incubation to bring those guys on. Okay, they're taking off now. I'm not a big IoT OT guy. Know enough to be dangerous. But did you see that Microsoft made another acquisition for OT and IoT from Reveal Networks?
No.
It got announced today. So they bought another IoT company.
Wow.
And I suspect that I'll probably be part of that incubation too, trying to figure out what it was. I'll send it out to everybody. I meant to bring it for the show notes. But they made another acquisition today and they announced it. And it's an IoT IoT and OT risk assessment platform and discovery type of entity, and it's a proving ground. Man, I wish I hadn't turned my laptop off on the other one. Let me see.
Yeah, that's cool. It's a huge growth area, right? Very, very important, whether it's manufacturing or critical infrastructure, right? Yeah, no doubt. So, Angela, you wouldn't be just, your role wouldn't be just focused on IT controls, but you could also traverse over into the OT and the operational realm as well?
Yeah, I could.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. All up security, compliance, and identity story, regardless of where it exists. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So the company that was acquired, I'm sorry, bro, it's called Refirm Labs.
Okay, I think I heard of that one. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
firmware security analysis and vetting, and then there's a huge thing. Microsoft has completed the acquisition of it, right? So I think
Nice.
this is what they were using to finally round out the CyberX. I sort of heard
Nice.
rumors of it, but I knew nothing about them. So that's all right. We'll see.
Cool.
IoT, it is just what it is, and I think now that people are realizing it's more than baby monitors.
Mhm.
Smart
Yeah,
fridges. Yeah, absolutely.
I saw some on my firewall. My refrigerator refused to quit trying to talk to the internet. I finally had to block the MAC address so the stupid thing is in it. It was wireless. I'm like, what? How did you even get on? What unsecured network did I have that this thing just got on, right?
Wow.
But I forgot that, the refrigerator has one of those little smart TV things on it, right? So I plugged in a Ethernet over power line, Ethernet cable, and then put it into the Ethernet port on the back of the refrigerator.
Wow.
Did you hear what I said? Refrigerators have Ethernet ports on them. Where are we going? Right.
Wow.
So everything.
Angela, how did you get into your role? I'm really curious how you
was my
made your way
question,
over
yeah.
here.
Yeah, so that's an interesting story. I guess about my background. I've jumped around in various roles within IT. My degree is in information systems, and I have a master's in information technology leadership. And over the years, kind of honed in on IT project management. And when I joined Microsoft, I was in Microsoft Business Operations as a program manager, launching Windows, Office, and I started launching some SCI launches, and just got curious about the product marketing manager role because within my launch team, I always had a PMM assigned to the specific product. So kind of got curious about that role and started doing informational interviews and went out on the career site earlier this year and applied for a couple of roles and had an interview and got hired.
There you
Cool.
go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Outstanding in the presentation. You went first doing that
Yeah,
webinar.
I'm like the moderator, so I kind of kick things off and kind of work behind the scenes to make sure everyone keeps on task and all that.
Yeah, she holds a red
I'm
light.
like the conductor, I guess.
Yeah,
Conductor,
like in
I
the,
like
in,
that.
the, in the Oscars or the Emmys.
Yes,
When Miss Harris turns the red light on, wrap it up. I heard everybody. You can see people doing slides, and evidently you said something, and the cadence picked up. So let's go to slide. What's the name? Let's go to slide. What's the name? Let's go to slide. What's the name? Like, yeah, get off.
Because we have so much information to get in, so it's challenging at times. And as I said, like all the PMMs are so passionate about their product, so we kind of want to make sure everyone gets a fair shot.
Well, that call, and I can share out the slide deck of the people that were on it. It had to be 14 people on that call.
Yeah, I would say probably about 14. Yes.
It was 14 on there, and they were talking, and I knew of Ricky, and I knew of a few other individuals on there, and so I was interested. Like, how come I've never been part of these calls? But I like that call better because now I don't have to make all the individual calls.
Okay, that's good to know. Good to know.
It'll eat all your week up, right? The only bad part about it is I have to wait for your team. How often do you present? That I
Once
don't
a
know.
quarter. So the next call will be coming up in February.
Okay. And it is customer facing or select customer facing?
Select. Yeah.
So Franklin is not Microsoft.
Okay.
He's a partner.
Soon to be MVP.
Yeah. He is an MVP. He's an MVP in my book.
Oh, yeah. Well, in my book as well, but maybe an official MVP.
Oh, that's right. He submitted for the MVP. Franklin, is congratulations in order?
No, the security section is just too small. So we don't influence enough people versus, if you're doing general Azure related stuff,
After the recommendation that I wrote, you didn't. Let me break some knees real quick. Because I remember having to write the recommendation, right?
Make some calls.
I'll make some calls. The same way Frank made calls that I could never pass the exam.
Weird. If you really think, if you take a look at the MVP categories, they don't really focus in on security compliance at all.
Oh,
they will now. It's called Log4j and Log4Shell.
Yeah, exactly.
Will now.
Whenever there's a 0 day that comes out, I just get flooded with emails of every single vendor telling me how to handle this. Like, okay, I'm already tired of it in the first day.
Yeah, same thing. Just patch or turn it off. How about that? Just don't log.
Don't log. Angela, do you so you're in your role where you're assisting in getting the word out about product updates and whatnot. Do you also at any point take in feedback from customers and pass that on to the product teams?
Yes, actually, that's actually on my to-do list because I am new to this role. I'm always looking for feedback for how we can optimize the the call, and actually in reading some of the surveys, a common theme is that some people want it a little more technical, some people don't. So trying to find that common ground. So that's definitely something I'm open to. But actually, in the new year, I'm planning to do some focus groups just to get some feedback from our partner community as well.
Oh, nice. That'll be
Franklin
helpful.
would be an excellent candidate.
Yes. So we'll
Oh,
definitely
no,
have to connect.
I'm not a good partner. Not a
Yeah,
good
you,
partner.
he's an excellent partner. Otherwise, I wouldn't. How long we known each other? Almost 3 years. So
Feels like 70.
it feels like 70 to me. Yeah, this friendship is weighing on me.
So whenever we have guests on, I go out and connect with them on LinkedIn. And your LinkedIn is very interesting because you're also you're an award-winning technology professional, certified life and career coach, STEM advocate. So tell me about all this extra stuff you're doing, especially the life and career coaching, and how you use that in your job at Microsoft, or to get the job at Microsoft.
I am pretty involved outside of my day-to-day job. I have a passion for service and giving back to people. And during the pandemic, I obtained a life and career coaching certification. So that's something I'm starting to dabble in. And actually, most recently, I was just accepted into a coaching fellowship sponsored by an organization called Coaching for Everyone. And it's also linked to the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. And their goal is to train more BIPOC coaches and get them professionally certified through the International Coaching Federation. So that program for me just kicked off in November, and I'm one of 28 people that's in that program. So definitely have a passion for giving back and personal development and helping develop other people. And that's come from me mentoring over the years. As being a Black woman in technology, I didn't have a lot of mentors very early in my career and had to learn a lot of things the hard way, unfortunately. So I just want to pay it forward and help make someone else's path a little bit easier.
Pay it forward, Edward. Did you hear that? Pay it forward.
That's awesome, Angela. Yeah, that's wonderful. And do you work with like local groups for getting young women and groups of individuals who may not have the ability to do it on their own get into STEM fields?
Primarily, I've been working through my alumni associations. I went to Drexel University in Philadelphia and also LaSalle University. And I actually have scholarships at both of those institutions that are supporting African-American students studying technology. And I started my first scholarship in 2017, and my very first recipient graduated in June of this year and actually just joined Microsoft back in September.
Wow, that is amazing.
It is.
Congratulations on your impact. That's wonderful.
I knew I liked it for a reason. I love giving. I love seeing the influence. You know, I play it back, but I'm a big fan of new thoughts, new innovation, younger people getting. We're aging out. Franklin and I are aging.
You are,
out, right?
You are.
I
am,
for sure, right? and I don't think the recruitment methodologies. People always say, you know, there are not enough, you know, minorities in cybersecurity.
Yes, that's
it
one
used
of
to
my
be the
pet
thing was
peeves.
IT. Now it's cybersecurity. Then it's not enough African Americans. There's not enough women. Like, you're recruiting at the wrong places.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so when you look at this diversity issue, why not take a page for some of your competitors, AWS and Google? Google was gangster. Google would sit outside the recruiting seminars, and when you bring students in from college, I forget whatever that would be, a recruiting fair, and say, come talk to us. Wow. And finally, someone at Microsoft's like, that's bad. That's bad, dude. You can't do that. You can't sit outside our job fair and recruit people as they coming out, right?
Wow.
But I mentor to a couple of young ladies that are interested in a cybersecurity career. I would love to introduce them to you because I believe your perspective is going to be better than mine. I can give them the business aspect of it, but they won't understand, hey, you know, I'm a straight shooter. You're going to be judged before you even do anything.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. And definitely one of my mentees, she just got a full ride at Tennessee State.
Wonderful.
And I'm also working myself with Fisk to help them create a cybersecurity curriculum, right?
Wow. Okay.
It's just hard. You know, Franklin's a lifetime learner. I am too. Brody just has natural talent. He doesn't have to work at it. And so
it's just the nicest thing you've ever said to me. I don't know if it's authentic or not, but
and there's a jealousy involved, right? Because he is significantly younger than Franklin and I. He was born into the technology.
Yes.
It's the only thing I really liked. Yeah.
Yes.
I gotta say, my oldest, when he was looking at going to high school, I looked at like the extra technology classes you could take. You could take actually like a year-long class to configure a router. I'm like,
Wow.
kids are actually playing Minecraft
Wow.
and configuring their own stuff, and they're learning that in half a day. They're
Wow.
still doing a year-long course. That has changed now, but
yeah, that's
yeah.
amazing to me. I know my first computer was a Commodore 64. This is in the days of like 2400 BPS modems and bulletin board systems, and that was all that I had. We didn't have computer science education in school, so I'm just completely blown away with all the opportunities that today's students have.
It's amazing that you reference those things that bring back nostalgia and everything, and you never broached the question of politics, money, sex, and asking women their age, but you're not old enough to know about 14.
I am.
And all this stuff, 5 1/4 floppy disk.
I had yes, the 5 1/4.
Wow.
My first computer had a 5 1/4.
I had a V20, and then I was operating a BBS board, right?
Okay. I used to dial into BBS systems back in the day. Oh my gosh.
And my wife had her own Prodigy BBS thing. She was on Prodigy.
I had Prodigy. That was my first ISP was Prodigy. People always talk about AOL, but Prodigy was there first.
I still have my AOL account.
Oh gosh. I'm like, is that like Mike still running that? Like who's still running AOL these days?
Some people are apparently. I saw a stat recently, and there's a small segment of the population. Like, are you still getting the CDs mailed to you?
Yeah.
Right? And you like cash them in
So
on 700 hours or what?
So the easiest way to find out whether you're running AOL in your environment, look at Cloud App Security. You'll see it. And you see the top thing. Matt Solzman published something about the top SaaS applications he saw. I swear I saw AOL like number 9.
Really?
Yes.
For what?
I think Yahoo owns them, or whoever owns Yahoo, right?
Wow.
That's amazing.
And that's funny.
All right, I got a question. Tell us about your first IT job and what got you in the door.
Great question.
What made the difference?
My very first job was at a company called Roman Haas. I think it's now Dow or DuPont Chemical Company. I always get it confused. But as I mentioned, I went to Drexel University, and one unique thing about Drexel University is that we have a co-op program where you work full time for 6 months of the year, and then you go to school full time for 6 months. So my very first co-op job was at Roman Haas in their network operations center, which was 24/7, 365. And I remember going for the interview. I was a sophomore in college. It was like 1998. And I remember the hiring manager saying to me that we've never had any women work in this department before. We want to hire 2 female co-op students. And what he was saying at that time completely went over my head until I actually saw the movie Hidden Figures a few years ago. So I was one of the first women and the first Black woman to work in that department in 1998.
Wow. I mean, that story
Really cool.
It's expiring, but to those who are not of the persuasion of being a person of color in this country, particularly African-American male or woman, that story is all too common, right?
Yes.
But the good part about it is, we were going to do a podcast about how we got our first IT job. It is the individuals who, for whatever their motivation was, give us a chance, right? And, you sound like I was. I was a voracious consumer of information, staying up late at night, working on bits and pieces of equipment. I think I told Franklin I learned to switch before I could learn how to route, because my first job was to configure a Catalyst 5505 switch, core switch. Like, I don't know. Then I learned how to route, big Cisco. So am I correct to assume that you came from a networking background?
That was my focus in college. I thought I wanted to be a network engineer. So I tried to get network engineering related co-op jobs when I was in college. And when I graduated, unfortunately, the job market was not the best and didn't get the job that I envisioned. So initially, when I went to college, I wanted to be a network engineer, but that never happened, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't even know if that title still exists. I think it's just,
Even if you learned it, it'd be out of date by now, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I logged into a Cisco switch, a router. I'm like, okay, what am I doing? I had to go get the books and like, okay, you do this.
Angela, what do you think about the current skills gap in the cybersecurity field, right? Like there's all these jobs, but then it seems like the entry level positions are always like, you need 20 years experience and all the certs.
You need 20 years of experience with Sentinel to get the job.
Right.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah, so
think
what's your
that's one of
take
the
on that?
reasons why I never really got into cyber or network engineering, because of that, the 20 years experience, and, having a degree is never good enough. I feel like throughout my career, no matter what job I've applied for, it's always, well, you need more experience. You need more experience. Well, how do I get the experience if you aren't giving me the job or the opportunity? And at
Exactly.
what point is my experience ever going to be good enough? And this is always the response. So it's like a double-edged sword, in my opinion. And honestly, I guess people have to start thinking outside of the box and having that growth mindset. People never hire for potential. You have to demonstrate that you've already done the job. And maybe if people start hiring for potential versus what you've already done, we wouldn't have such a skills shortage.
Absolutely. You come right out of school. You have never had a job before, potentially, right? So
Right.
what are
But
you
in my
gonna
case,
do?
I had quote unquote 18 months of job experience, but that still wasn't good enough.
Man,
Well,
I
the
think that
problem,
this,
it hasn't gotten better, right?
I
No.
hope so.
Even
No.
even it,
Oh,
even it,
really?
now that
Oh.
you are senior, because you encounter a different set of obstacles that companies are trying to hire this unicorn,
Yes. You have to have all the boxes checked.
but you don't want to pay.
Yeah, that's the other thing. And that's
You know,
25K a year for that 20 years experience, entry level job. Yeah, like
so when I was speaking and I was covering federal agency government stuff, and agencies were saying we can't find people, like, you don't want to pay them. Why would I go work and have any type of you know government job when I can see my peers who are civilian making bukus of cash, right? And so there is a juxtaposition in, you want all this, but you don't want to pay and you don't want to hire for potential. And then so I got away from the technical and I was explaining to them, if you hire for potential, you inspire loyalty.
Yes.
That you help build that person up, and they will remember that, because you build something else. If someone takes a job and they're disgruntled from day one, and all they're doing is a jumping point to the next job, they're gonna learn your dime and I'm out. Yeah. We could debate that all day. One other question I wanted to have on your skills and in the way you came up now, and I'm sort of piecing together your experience, is if you had the chance to go back and retool yourself and you couldn't be a network engineer, what other skill set and what career path would you take?
I would say definitely cyber now, because there's actually cybersecurity degrees. And like I said, that wasn't a thing when I was a student. It was just like computer science,
Exactly.
maybe information systems, computer engineering. That was it. So probably a straight cyber degree.
I asked that question because I have 2 active mentees. I'm about to add 2 more. They're in high school, and now I'm 2 in high school, getting ready to graduate. 2 in college. Programming is now considered a foreign language.
Wow.
That's your foreign language elective now.
Wow.
I like
I
that.
know
Mine
a
was
lot of
Spanish.
foreign languages.
Wow.
And so I'm like, instead of taking French, you can take Java. Instead of taking German, you can take Python. And this is going to satisfy your things, because
Wow.
and it was so crazy because 2 of my mentees are in liberal arts school, but they're doing whatever their version of information system is. And so they were like, yeah, here are the alternatives for that. So I'm seeing technology become more pervasive in everything that we do. You have to be a technologist. You may not think you are until you pick up one of these supercomputers that we call a cell phone.
Yes.
and they do these things. Yeah, had I done it a little different, I probably would have doubled down and really got to an expert level in somebody's programming language. If I ever had to claim I was an expert in England, it was Visual Basic, right? Who used Visual Basic?
I love that. Was my favorite. Like, I had C++ freshman year. I did horribly in that, but Visual Basic, that was my jam.
Yeah, and it's still
fun.
out there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm teaching myself Python beyond a novice level. Like, my Linux skills have gotten sophomore mode now. I'm actually throwing myself into the technology game with a renewed passion. I don't know why. It's just that maybe the stuff that's come out is so neat. And the other thing is, I feel Brody on my heels, right? Any minute now. Get rid of Ed.
A lot of competition going on over there.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Healthy competition is good.
Then this means that Brody will have his SC200 and SC400. That means once he gets the SC300, he'll have the trifecta, and Edward, you'll be behind by 2 exams.
Wow.
It's
So
okay, Ed.
I'm curious, how many certs do you have behind your name?
Me?
Yeah, everyone.
The
What?
combined number of
Ed,
certs
go
that I
first.
had, they're not active now because it's not prudent to try to keep them up. I need to get more impactful certifications. But at one time, I carried from an expert level of the CCIE all the way down to a novice in some technologies. I carried about 45 different current certifications.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
I'm at 4. 3
But back then,
Microsoft
that was
and 1
On
Yes.
Microsoft, on Microsoft certs, I'm 9 active. I'll get 2 more in a few months, and then I'll also be taking some other certs.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I
okay.
had numerous networking because when you got certified Cisco, you jump over and you do Juniper and you jump over and you do HP. So I did all that route switch stuff. Then I came from the time when MCSE was a thing, right? Got to have that. And then there was more designations after that. And then I did a lot of
Network,
wireless. So
Novell
I was
Network. Come on.
no, I had Novell. I was an air magnet. I was a network general, network sniffing person, semantic person, manhunt.
Mm.
Brody, you don't remember manhunt. IPS by Semantic, and then Juniper bought them. So you name it. You ever heard of HP Superdome?
Mm-mm.
I was one of the 6 Superdomes in the United States back in the 2000s. So this is how you tie it. You remember the Intel chip Itanium?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
That machine ran on Itanium, was built for banks. Right
Oh.
now, you blow it out the water. It was everything to get the cert, right? And you could say, hey, I'm one of the Superdome engineers. You never did the work, but I would come in and like, yeah, you did it right. My money. So that's good.
All right, so how has the job environment changed in the past 20 years? Would you say, Angela?
From what perspective, I guess?
When I was first starting out in the 90s, well, actually I started in 86, but when I went to large organizations in the 90s, it was actually pretty diverse. Mobil Oil, JP Morgan, and so so a lot of things that you experienced I actually never saw because of the companies that I worked for. It was very diverse. So what you experienced 20 years ago, is it different today?
Okay, not much different. And speaking with some of the young women that I mentor, they're also in similar situations. So it's just interesting that I've been out of school for so long and they're still encountering some of the same things that I've experienced in my career. So not much progress, unfortunately, which is really sad.
That's too bad. We need diverse perspectives to deal with diverse
Right.
problems.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, people say diverse teams perform better, and it's all about generating income and generating revenue. So if we know this for a fact, why aren't we doing a better job?
So, but do you feel that the diversity is not the first issue, and just the hiring of having to have the most experience is the first issue? Which is the higher barrier that's being faced out there?
That's a good perspective. I mean, I think that's part of the problem. And I guess a question for you guys, given the trends with education now with COVID, like a lot of students aren't pursuing college degrees, like, is it better to pursue certification over a degree? And I guess in terms of hiring, which one is going to be valued more?
I think organizations are lazy. And I think they put too much onus on those who don't work in the field to take cliff notes to pass off to HR to then try to find a candidate. And they have unrealistic expectations when they post these things out on these different job boards, be it Dice, Monster, LinkedIn, whatever it may be. The other thing is, in my humble opinion, the current leadership model is still white male, and they haven't aged out and been replaced. When you replace those who have the decision making on bringing on talent so that they're not comfortable and they go very factual about what they're trying to achieve, you achieve a demographic that lets you achieve your mission, right?
A la Microsoft recently, right? Coming in under Satya, And the
Mhm.
the executive leadership teams that have started to come in are very diverse compared to what they were in the 90s. I think the company's really turned it around in that regard.
And it's still abysmal when you look at the overall a number of not only minorities, then we start breaking it down into different ethnic groups. African Americans, I'm uniquely focused on that, right? Obviously. But even women, you see these things, and it's because there is no active encouragement versus passive pushback to get it in. And I think the reason is just my opinion. When you change the way that you recruit and you bring people in and the skill set and the drive, you make lazy people have to up their game. And you make folks who have gotten by. I've seen a serious imitation of corporate America that used to be revenue driven, by all means necessary, drive, profit, everything, starting to emulate government agencies where folks would just come in, do their 9 to 5 and get their pension. So there's no innovation, there's no drive. It is very systemic. And that is the reason that you're not getting individuals of color to come into the information technology / cybersecurity. They're not these kids like, I'm not going into technology. I'm going to go in and do this thing and go in and do that thing. The other thing is that our formal education system is antiquated. We are so far behind other countries that technology just inbred to them as the ante to even play. And then if you decide you want to get away from technology, then you go do liberal arts and lawyers and doctors and all this other stuff. But we don't do STEM the way that we claim we advertise in this country. Because I find that if you don't have a monetary incentivation to push technology, it just doesn't happen. And I think Brody wanted to chime in on this. Science fiction is science fiction until someone figures out how to make money off of it. Then it's science fact, because this was science fiction 40 years ago.
That's fair.
A little watch that you can look down and do, FaceTime on. That's Dick Tracy stuff. That was science.
That is Dick Tracy stuff. Yeah. Well, and Angela,
folks realize, I can make money off of this.
Right, but I got a serious question for you. So, being a white male and not understanding the environment, okay, it seems right now that schools are de-emphasizing math and science overall.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that or disagree with that? Because with that de-emphasis, everything that we're talking about here, the candidate pool is just not going to be there. So what do you do if you're trying to build a diverse team, but the candidate pool is not there because of the with the current climate of de-emphasizing math and science?
Because it's not sexy. When you look at medical and you're talking about 8 years of hard schooling, when you look at going through engineering school, information technology curriculum and matriculating in that, to still understand that your skills may not be enough, and there are no really publicized jobs, right, that drive people to say, I want to do this. Case in point, the electric car battery technology should be something everybody's jumping into. Very few people do it. Nuclear engineering is going to come back, right? We got to find alternative energy sources. But when you see folks that go through tech, it's not sold well enough for those who may be fringe. They may have the skill and the attributes and the ability to learn it. They just don't have the desire. So right now, technology is still looking for those who not only have the skill, the attributes, and the passion for it. They're not going after the ones who say, you'd be surprised where you'll find a savient, that person that can just look at programming stuff just like it's in the Matrix, right? Those individuals exist, but we're not recruiting those, right? I've yet to find a male that can outperform a female in application development if they're on both equal planes, right? I don't know if that one just being gender biased, but when I look at how they approach things and how they write code and do everything, but you don't always get to showcase your skills because how we have things structured. I don't know the fix. There is no fix in our generation.
No easy
right?
fix, honestly.
It would take. You got a better chance of getting college athletes paid than fixing this problem that we have right now, right? But
well, I have to tell you, I actually never went to college.
I'm a college dropout. Yeah, so I'm glad you shared first. Yeah, 2 terms. I wanted to go program games for EA Canada, and I just didn't like all the filler courses. I thought accounting was silly, and why do I need to learn this? And I got where I am on job experience, and eventually a CISSP certification and Microsoft certifications brought me here. So thanks for sharing, Frank, because I thought I was the only one.
I when you hear my story about my first IT job, then you'll understand more. But yeah, I have to say that I wish over my years that I actually did go back and get the degree on my terms. You have to understand that my time that I went into computers, you basically at colleges, universities, it was all mainframe. I hated mainframe. I wanted to be PC based, so there wasn't even the schools there, the courses for me there at the time, anyways.
Yeah,
so here's the other thing: is that has it held me back? Yes, because believe it or not, companies could actually hire me as an overpaid consultant, but they could never actually hire me as an employee.
It's so crazy. I went to 2 colleges. The one I thought I graduated from, I didn't. And the one that I didn't think I graduated from, they issued me a degree. Right? I went to Grambling. I went to HBCU. They didn't have an engineering school, so you had to go to Louisiana Tech. I still consider myself a college dropout, right? Because I hated school. I was like, this is the most useless thing going to me, right? And it's just only child, the way I went about it, and a lot of other, factors are behind it. But the reason I didn't is because I saw bias even in academics, the way they treated the so-called star students and everything. So my senior year in high school, I must have been a C- student. But if you took away all of the other stuff I didn't like literature and this and this and that, and just stayed on math and science, I was A+. Still, wasn't even in the top 40% of the graduating class. So back in the day when you took the SAT, remember the high score was 1,600? I scored 1,350.
Wow.
And that caused an uproar, like he cheated. So I went back and took it the second time and scored 1,170. Now I'm stressed, right? But I couldn't figure out why. It's because in the city of Atlanta, each high school gets to present something back in the day called the Star Student. It went solely on your SAT or ACT scores. So they're like, wait a minute, this dude can't even pass home ec. How did he score this? I'm like, and I had a little arrogance back in the day, if you couldn't believe. I'm like, I'm just smarter than you. So they didn't like that, right?
I always said I should have been 2 grades ahead in math and 2 grades behind in English, and that schooling really didn't work out for me.
They didn't know what to do with you.
My passion was computers, not the other things. And I got in this field not for the money, not for whatever. I got in the field because it's like what I like to do. And then ended up doing my own business because nobody would hire me as an employee. Then when you've been a consultant for X number of years, there's very few companies that are actually going to say, oh, he's going to stop being a consultant. And like I said before, the only time that I was being interviewed by Microsoft for being an employee is the same time they had their lawyers thinking about bringing me up on fraud charges. And I mentioned that, then they never talked to me again, but that's okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Big question, right?
It's hard.
I own the domain name visualstudio.com, and they were not happy about that. So they were threatening me with everything while another group was actually hiring me. So I brought up all the threats that were going on that Microsoft never talked to me again from the employment side. So
Nice, Frank. Nice. Expert level troll.
That's the reason we can't get on YouTube anymore, because of him.
Yeah. Frank's causing all these problems for the
Yeah,
podcast.
they banned us from YouTube. I love this conversation. This is how we shape our industry. I hope that our listeners see these things. And I felt good. Last week we had some great news. Individual that listened to our show, we've helped out. We've advanced his career. He literally doubled his salary. I won't mention his name.
Wow.
He's going to come to Microsoft. And and by no means did he lessen the impact that Franklin, Brody, Rod, and myself had on him. Right? He felt like he had to up his game all the time. Like, I'll do this.
But
But
he's the type of person that makes things happen for himself.
Yes.
But he's willing to reach out and work with people, ask questions, that sort of thing. So, he makes those things happen for himself because he's willing to work with other people, and so that's why he'll be successful and has been successful.
And continue. I told him, I said, man, we're not gonna let you fail. That's not what we do here, right? We're community. So, we're at 5:55. This has been very enlightening to put the voice, what Angela, you and I know in our heads. Franklin knows it. Franklin's always been a person that, when I met the dude, I'm like, you're all right. Grouchy, but you're all right. And we formed a friendship and we stayed in touch and everything. Matter of fact, Frank's wife and I are better friends than he and I, because she and I love sci-fi. We love virus movies and killer chop 'em up zombie
Edward comes
movies.
to town and is like, hey, let's go out to dinner. And I'm like, well, forget it, because if I bring my wife, he's just going to talk, Walking Dead or whatever that show is.
The whole time, right? So we'll give the last 5 minutes to you, Miss Harris. Is anything you want to tell our listeners about you, how to find you, some of your stuff? We can actually capture it post-show and put it in our show notes. Any way you want to amplify your brand, because that's the thing these days too. You got to amplify your brand.
Sure. I'd say the easiest way would be my website, which is www.angelavharris.com.
Okay. And we're going to go there and find all these wonderful things, and I can send my my potential mentees to you.
Yes, you can. And actually, I do want to give a special shout out to actually 2 of my scholarship recipients. They are actually pursuing cybersecurity careers. I have one young lady from Drexel University, Leah Johnson. She's graduating in June of 2022, and she's going to enter the cyber workforce. And I have another young lady at LaSalle University getting her graduate degree in cybersecurity.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing
Congrats.
is that we need to uplift. Like, if I have the ability to influence to at least get you in the door, I'll do it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
We got to do that, because we are behind, because we keep adhering to the same employment. This just me, doesn't reflect the reviews or any parent out there. You need to really consider, is college for your kid right off the bat? Right? Is this something they can achieve? Because STEM doesn't require all the time formal training.
Right.
Now, when you get into some hard engineering, you got to go to school. I wouldn't want someone to learn nuclear engineering in their off time and then go work on a reactor, right?
On YouTube.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
Hell, you could. But okay, we'll definitely put that in the show notes. And if you got to go back and, do you believe that your role is going to require you to become more technical or more influential? Because they're mutually inclusive. You could be super influential, but not be deep in tech. Or you're going to get deeper in tech, or you're just going to stay sort of, master of all. What's that? Jack of all. How deep do you want to go?
I would say at this stage, I would say more influential at this stage.
Yeah. I'm going through a period that now that I'm loving tech again. I'm actually, I think it's because I got to beat Brody in this test, right? So I got to really learn and quit being a dumb man in a conversation where Frank and Rod are talking parsers and normalization and all this stuff. Like, what? But thank you for coming on to our podcast. You are always welcome to come back as a friend of the show. You can come back and talk about whatever you want to talk about. If we get any inquiries from parents that have kids or young folks that are listening to the podcast that definitely could use your mentorship, we'll send those over.
Okay,
include myself,
that would be
right?
wonderful. Thank you.
And then I'll help. I support some of these things, but if you need any help from me, I'm all there for it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for all you do, Angela. Thank you very much.
Thank you.